To remain competitive, organizations must continuously change. If they fail to adapt and accelerate their speed of execution, they stagnate and go out of business. It is a slow, difficult process, much like turning a massive cargo ship in choppy waters. But industry data reveals a high failure rate for these initiatives. These initiatives often falter when the chosen framework doesn't align with the actual source of friction. Effort is spent solving a structural problem when the real barrier is psychological, or vice versa. Broadly speaking, the top 10 change management models fall into two distinct categories. Process-focused models outline the structural steps to take, while people-focused models address the human response to that change. This chart maps out our options. On the horizontal axis, we split the focus on process versus the focus on people. On the vertical axis, we separate macro strategy for the whole organization from micro tactics for the individual team. Identifying exactly where your initiative sits on this matrix, whether you are dealing with a structural bottleneck or an emotional roadblock, allows you to select a framework that matches your specific circumstances. We will start in the upper left quadrant, the domain of the strategic architect. This is for C-suite executives seeking macro-level alignment across the entire company. The McKinsey 7S framework lives here. It requires an audit and alignment of 7 distinct organizational elements, such as structure, strategy, and shared values. If you change one element, you must adjust the others to maintain balance. It creates a reinforcing ecosystem, but the analytical complexity is high. It can be cumbersome for simple departmental shifts. Lewin's change model begins with the unfreeze stage, where the organization prepares by managing doubts. In the final refreeze stage, it stabilizes into a new status quo. However, this locking-in phase can be too slow for environments requiring continuous adjustments. Macro process models ensure the entire company moves as one cohesive unit, but they often prioritize alignment over execution speed. Moving down to the micro-process level, we enter the domain of the pragmatic executor. Middle managers typically operate here, prioritizing local execution and tangible momentum. Kotter's 8-step change model begins at the top by creating a sense of urgency to gain stakeholder support. The full circular graphic reveals a rigid, multi-stage flow. It generates rapid top-down direction, but artificial urgency can lead to staff burnout. The Deming cycle, or PDCA, maps a continuous loop of plan, do, check, and act for constant iteration. The check and act quadrants rely heavily on data analysis. It is a systematic, mechanical approach that lacks a mechanism for emotional buy-in. Warning tone: microprocess models are designed for speed. However, they run into walls when the team's capacity for stress is ignored. That brings us to the people-focused side of the matrix, the domain of the empathic leader. HR and culture leads operate here, focusing on minimizing friction and securing team buy-in. Consider the satir change model. It requires leaders to acknowledge the chaos phase. It treats emotional resistance and temporary productivity dips as a natural part of the transition. This model protects self-esteem and normalizes frustration during the transition. The trade-off is that it provides no structural guidance on how to design the actual workflows. Then we have the Maller 3 levels of resistance. This diagnostic tool forces managers to categorize pushback into 3 distinct buckets: intellectual, emotional, or relational. Categorizing resistance allows for targeted conflict resolution. However, diagnosing individual responses is time-intensive and requires significant emotional intelligence from leadership. Finally, there is nudge theory. Instead of direct mandates, it utilizes choice architecture to subtly alter defaults and guide behavior without restricting employee autonomy. People-focused models act as a shock absorber for organizational change, but a shock absorber cannot independently build or repair a broken operational structure. Map the right model by identifying your primary roadblock. Lacking team structure? Combine the PDCA cycle with nudge theory. Facing deep team resistance? Use Maurer's 3 levels and the Satter model. For misaligned departments, start with McKinsey 7S, then Kotter's 8 steps. The most effective change model is the one that addresses your organization's specific blind spot. Analytical companies often need to adopt people models, while empathetic cultures may need process models to navigate a transformation.